The tongue may cut like a knife, but silence is the blade that never misses. My friends, they think silence is soft. They think if you're quiet, you've got nothing to say, nothing to fight with. But what if I told you that silence, real silence, cuts deeper than any word you could ever speak? That it doesn't just echo in their ears. It lives in their mind, rent-free. You see, silence doesn't just end a conversation. It ends illusions. And that's where the pain begins. Before we dive into this truth bomb of a message, do me a favor if you've ever held back from reacting. If you've ever chosen calm over chaos, distance over drama, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel too, because what you're about to hear might just be the mirror you've needed all along. Hey folks, imagine this. You're in a room with someone who's yelling, throwing words around like punches, waiting for you to fight back. They're expecting fire, but instead, you give them nothing, just a calm look. And then you walk away. No scream, no breakdown, no long paragraph, just silence. That right there is where the real battle begins. Because they weren't ready for that kind of power. They were prepared for noise, not your absence. They thought your silence was weakness, that not replying meant they had won. But let me break the lie for you. Silence is not the absence of power. It's the presence of self-control. And let me tell you something. Most people aren't scared of your anger. They're scared of your peace. Because peace says you're done explaining. Peace says they no longer have access. Peace says you're choosing yourself. And that's terrifying. To someone who thought they owned your attention. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." And when your reaction is no reaction, that shakes their ego like an earthquake. Because silence forces them to sit with what they did. No justifications, no debates, just them, and the consequences. You ever seen someone wave at an automatic door that doesn't open? They get all confused, tapping the sensor, stepping back and forth. That's them, trying to trigger a reaction from you. But the system doesn't work the same anymore. You've updated. You're not the same person they could emotionally hack with guilt trips and mixed signals. You've upgraded to version I don't owe you an explanation. And sure, there's a part of you that still wants to speak, to get closure, to say just one more thing. But my friends, silence is the closure. It's the message that says, I've said all I needed to say with my absence. It's not about revenge. It's not about being cold. It's about knowing your value and refusing to auction it off for attention. Here's a little fun fact. Lions don't roar when they walk away. They just leave. And the jungle knows. That's you now. You don't need to prove you've moved on. Your silence proves it louder than words ever could. So if you're sitting in silence, thinking they don't feel it, trust me, they do. Every second, every scroll, every empty notification. And it stings more than any goodbye ever could. Say it with me now. Silence is strength. Write in the comments right now, and let them feel it. Let the world see that you're not afraid to be silent anymore. Because silence isn't surrender, it's power. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay with me because we're just getting started. Number 1. They expected a storm. You gave them stillness. Sometimes the quietest revenge is simply moving on without a sound. It hits them differently when there's no yelling, no drama, no final scene, just nothing. And that's what they never saw coming. You see, my friends, people are trained to expect chaos after they've hurt someone. They prepare for the confrontation. They brace for the emotional storm. They even rehearse their fake apologies and twisted logic to flip the blame back on you. But when they come looking for the fire, and all they find is stillness, that's when the panic starts to creep in. Imagine they're standing on a battlefield, all geared up, sword in hand, shouting across the field. But there's no one there. Just wind. Just silence. Just them and their echo. They were ready to fight. They were ready to twist the truth. They were ready to feed off your reaction. But you never showed up. And that drives them mad. Now they're asking themselves questions they were never ready to face. Why aren't you texting? Why haven't you posted anything? Are you really done? Is someone else giving you what they took for granted? They'll scroll through your story like archaeologists searching for clues. Anything to prove they still matter. But your silence gives them no comfort, no explanation, just uncertainty. And the mind hates uncertainty more than it hates guilt. But here's the truth they'll never say out loud. They didn't expect you to have this kind of strength. They thought they had you mapped out, that you'd always come back, that you'd always try to fix things, that you'd react loudly. But when you didn't, they realized the power was never in their hands. It was always in your reaction. And now that you've taken that away, they're starving for the one thing they used to drown in, your energy. Folks, you've got to understand, silence is not just an absence. It's a boundary. It's a mirror. It reflects everything back to them. Who they are, what they did, and what they lost. And it forces them to sit with their own reflection. That's what makes silence such a sharp weapon. It doesn't need noise to cause damage. It makes them battle their own thoughts, their own regrets. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And my friends, when you decide not to give them your mind, your words, your fire, that's when you become untouchable. But let's be real, it's not easy. There's a fire in your chest that wants to be heard. A voice inside that screams, say something. Show them they hurt you. But that's the trap. That's how they pull you back into the same cycle. Because if they can get a reaction, they still have control. You want to know why it's so hard to stay silent? Because you were raised in a world that told you your worth had to be explained. That silence meant defeat. That if you didn't speak, you didn't care. But here's the lie you need to break. You don't need to explain yourself to someone who never truly listened in the first place. You don't need to react to prove your value. You don't need to fight for your right to be respected. So now, instead of screaming, you're studying. Instead of reacting, you're rebuilding. Quietly, calmly. With every day that passes and you stay in your peace, their illusion of control crumbles a little more. They'll try to provoke you. They'll bait you with silence of their own. But your silence isn't a game. It's a graduation. You've outgrown the need to be heard by people who only listen to reply, not to understand. And here's the part they'll never be ready for. You're not silent because you're broken. You're silent because you've finally built enough peace that their noise no longer fits in your life. And that kind of power? It doesn't scream. It just is. Say it with me now. Stillness is strength. Write it in the comments. Let them feel your absence. Let them hear your power in the quiet. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that you don't need to make noise to make impact. And stay with me, because next we're going to uncover why silence isn't just power. It's the sharpest blade they never saw coming. Number 2, silence is the sharpest blade. Words may bruise, but silence? It cuts straight to the soul. You don't need a weapon when you've got silence. It slices through ego, through lies, through the fantasies they built about who you were and how much control they had. See, my friends, silence doesn't come with warning signs. It doesn't yell. It doesn't knock. It just arrives and destroys everything they thought they understood about you. They thought silence meant you were hurting, unsure, still waiting. But let's flip that lie right here. Real silence, the kind that comes from clarity, not confusion, isn't a cry for help. It's a decision. A line drawn in emotional steel. It says, you don't get access anymore. And that, my friends, is what stings. Because nothing haunts the guilty like the quiet they can't read. Imagine someone standing in front of a locked vault. They used to have the code, used to get in whenever they pleased. But one day they try to open it and nothing. No beeps, no clicks, no response. Just cold silence. That's what your presence feels like now. They were used to your warmth, your explanations, your energy on demand. But now, they're left freezing outside the vault of your heart. And the silence is the lock they can't crack. You know what's wild? The human brain is wired to fear uncertainty more than pain. It's why horror movies don't show the monster right away. It's the not knowing that drives us mad. And that's exactly what your silence does. It doesn't confirm anything. It doesn't deny anything. It just lets their own mind do the damage. They don't know if you're over it, or if you're quietly planning your glow-up. They don't know if you've moved on, or if you're just done performing. Seneca once said, "A sword never kills anybody. It is a tool in the killer's hand." And silence? Silence is the sharpest tool of all, because when used with intention, it does what no shouting match ever could. It kills the illusion. It cuts through the performance. It severs the emotional leash they had around you. But here's the thing, most people aren't ready for that kind of sharp. They expect you to break down, explain, lash out, because they need that from you. Your reaction isn't just a response, it's their oxygen. And when you take it away, they suffocate. Not because you're cruel, but because they were addicted to a version of you that no longer exists. And let's not pretend it's easy. There will be nights when you want to reach out. Days when you start typing the message just to delete it. There's a kind of ache that comes from silence too, the ache of choosing yourself, even when it would feel easier to break the quiet. But hear me clearly. Choosing silence is not weakness. It's emotional discipline. It's the moment when you stop fighting to be understood by someone who never really cared to understand. They'll say you're being cold. They'll say you're playing games. But deep down, they know. They know this silence is different. It's not passive, it's powerful. It doesn't come from confusion. It comes from clarity. They didn't expect you to stop explaining. They didn't expect you to stop fighting. They didn't expect nothing. But that's exactly what you gave them. And now, their mind is doing laps in the pool of your absence. You ever see a balloon pop in complete silence? One moment it's floating, loud and bright. The next just gone. That's what your detachment feels like. Sudden, final, unapologetic. And that's what cuts the deepest. Not your words, not your anger, but the clean, sharp edge of your peace. Say this with me now. Silence cuts deeper. Write it in the comments. Let them see it. Let them feel it. Let the world around you know that your silence isn't hesitation. It's transformation. You're not explaining, you're evolving. And if it makes them uncomfortable, good. Growth always makes noise. In other people's heads. Even when you say nothing at all. Stay with me. Because next we're diving into the battlefield of the mind, where your silence becomes the voice they can't silence in their own head. And trust me, that's where the real pain begins. Number 3. Their mind will break what your mouth never said. The mind creates louder screams than any voice ever could, especially when it's forced to fill in the silence. It's not what you said that's breaking them. It's everything you didn't. Folks, the human mind hates silence. It can't sit still. It needs to make sense of things. So when you go quiet, not ghosting, not playing games, but genuinely choosing silence, they start building their own horror movie in their head. And here's the twist. You didn't even write the script. They did. Now their thoughts are spinning. Did you move on? Are you talking to someone else? Are you done for real this time? Did they finally push you too far? These questions don't come from curiosity. They come from panic. Because your silence doesn't just leave them wondering. It leaves them haunted. Imagine this. Someone sitting in a dark room. All alone. No music. No phone buzzing. Just four walls. And their own thoughts bouncing back at them like echoes. That's where they are now. Every time they check their phone and don't see your name. Every time they scroll and see you glowing instead of grieving, they hear the loudest message you've ever sent. I'm not coming back. But you didn't say that out loud, did you? You didn't send the final text. You didn't post the revenge quote. You didn't announce your exit. And that's what kills them. Because when someone leaves without making a sound, the mind has no script to follow. No ending. No explanation. Just blank space. And the ego? It hates blank space. You were the one who used to explain. You were the one who always offered clarity. You gave them closure they never earned. You were always trying to help them understand you, hoping that one day they'd finally get it. But now you've left them, alone with the truth they refuse to face. And they're not ready for that kind of confrontation. Let me break a lie wide open for you. They always understood you. They just didn't care to show it. They heard your pain. They just liked your silence better when it was submission, not separation. But now that silence is a wall, not a welcome mat. And they can't handle the shift. Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." And my friends, you've done just that. You stopped waiting. You stopped explaining. You stopped performing for someone who could never see past their own reflection. You said, "I deserve peace." And your actions started matching your worth. But here's the beauty of it. Now they're the ones overthinking. They're the ones typing out messages and deleting them. They're rereading old conversations, looking for signs, scanning your photos for clues. The silence you gave them, it's not just distance. It's psychological warfare. And they're losing. They'll pretend they don't notice. They'll post like they're unbothered. They might even fake a little piece of their own. But inside, it's chaos. Because their mind is full of the noise they once blamed on you. And now that you're gone, they have no one left to project it onto. And you're glowing up in the shadows. You're not fighting to be seen. You're not asking to be heard. You're just becoming. And that's what eats them alive. Because they can't track your silence. They can't control it. They can't decode it. And without access to your mind, they're stuck in their own. So let them scroll. Let them wonder. Let them sit in the silence they used to enjoy when it benefited them. Because now, it's their own mind that's turning on them. Their guilt, their regret, their ego. It's all echoing in the vacuum you left behind. Say this with me, and drop it in the comments. They can't escape the silence. Let that be your affirmation. Not in anger, but in awareness. Not in revenge, but in rebirth. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that you don't need to explain the storm you walked through. You are the calm that followed. And stay close, because next, we're going to talk about something even more powerful. Why your peace is louder than their chaos. When your soul is finally quiet, their noise starts to echo. It's a strange thing, isn't it, folks? The very peace they used to mock, the calm they mistook for weakness, is now the storm cloud over their head.
You didn't yell.
You didn't throw a fit.
You didn't beg.
You just stopped. Stopped explaining. Stopped defending. Stopped reacting. And that silence, that peace, it's deafening to someone who only understood love through noise. They didn't know what to do when the chaos ended, because that's what they thrived on. The drama, the reactions, the emotional tug-of-war. They were comfortable when you were uncomfortable. They felt in control when you were off balance. But when you finally found your footing, when you pulled your energy back and chose peace over performance, they didn't just lose the argument. They lost the game.
Picture this, a stage.
They're performing, screaming, playing out the same act they've rehearsed 100 times. Except this time, there's no audience, just empty seats, just silence. And your peace is the sound that fills that space. That calm glow in your eyes that says, you don't live here anymore. They don't know how to handle it, because your stillness doesn't need applause. It speaks for itself. You used to react out of love. You explained because you cared. You fought for them because you saw something worth saving. But now your energy is too expensive to spend on someone who only knew how to create noise, not connection. You finally realized peace isn't passive. It's powerful. It's the shield you build when you stop trying to fix someone who chooses chaos over clarity. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." And my friends, that's what you've done. You didn't stoop to their level. You didn't retaliate. You didn't mirror their madness. You rose. Quietly, steadily, gracefully. And that rise, it's not loud, but it's heard. Oh, it's heard loud and clear by the one who never expected you to walk away without leaving a mess. Let's be real, it wasn't easy. Peace never is, especially when you've been trained to survive in chaos. There were days when silence felt like punishment, nights when you questioned whether they even noticed you'd gone quiet. But here's the truth, they noticed. They noticed when you stopped posting. They noticed when you didn't respond. They noticed when your energy, your fire, your presence went missing. And it's not just the silence that stings, it's the serenity. Because your peace is the proof that they didn't break you. It's the proof that you healed, that you moved on, that you're not watching the same story unfold anymore. You closed the book and wrote a new chapter without their name in it. Now they're the ones sitting in the wreckage of the chaos they built, waiting for your reaction, craving your attention. But you're no longer performing in that circus. You're sipping peace like tea, reading your favorite book, going for a walk with no weight on your chest. And they can't stand it, because peace is loud to someone who only hears through conflict. It's wild how your glow disturbs their shadows. They thought you'd crumble, that you'd break into pieces when they left. But instead, you became whole. You didn't retaliate, you realigned. And now they're learning a lesson the hard way. The one who stays calm is always the one who's really in control. So, let them throw their tantrums. Let them bait you with silence of their own. Let them post cryptic stories and pretend they're at peace too. You don't need to prove anything. Your peace is proof. Your silence is power. Your lack of reaction is your loudest response. Say this with me right now. My peace is power. Write it in the comments below. Let them feel the calm they can't access. Show yourself. Show the world that you're done entertaining chaos just to feel seen. You don't need noise to be noticed. You don't need conflict to be cared for. You need peace. And now that you've found it, don't let anything pull you back. Stay with me, because next we're diving into why silence makes them replay every single mistake, and how your calm is the storm they never saw coming. Number 5. Why silence makes them replay every mistake. Regret doesn't knock on the door with noise. It creeps in during the quiet, my friends. Let's talk about the part they never expected. See, when you go silent, truly silent, not to punish, not to play games, but because your peace is finally worth more than your pain, something dangerous starts to happen.
Not to you, to them.
To the ones who thought they could hurt you and walk away untouched. Because silence doesn't just sit there doing nothing. It rewinds everything. It replays every scene. And it forces them to see it all, without the distractions. Imagine someone sitting in a theater, watching a film. But this time, they're the star, the villain, the director, and the audience. And the movie playing? It's every word they said. Every time they ignored your tears. Every time they rolled their eyes when you needed support. Every moment you stayed, and they still pushed you away. Your silence is the projector now. And there's no off switch. At first, they pretend it's fine. They scroll past your profile like it doesn't matter. They act unbothered. Maybe even post a little louder, laugh a little harder, try to prove they're good. But inside? Oh, inside the volume is rising. And it's not music. It's memory. And memory is a cruel, relentless thing, especially when it's soaked in guilt. Because here's the truth they're choking on now. They weren't expecting consequences. They were expecting closure. They thought there'd be a final message, a sad emoji, a paragraph explaining your pain. But when you gave them none of it, their mind was left to do what silence does best, speak in their own voice. And that's when regret sinks its teeth in. Seneca once said, "Every guilty person is his own hangman." And silence? That's the rope. That's the trigger. That's the mirror. It shows them who they really were. Not the person they pretend to be on Instagram. Not the charmer with the smooth lines and fake apologies. But the one who had a real one in their life and kept choosing pride, ego, and games. They start replaying it all now. The night you tried to talk and they dismissed you. The day you reached out and they left you on read. The fight you wanted to end and they kept fueling. Every moment you gave and they wasted.
But now?
Now, there's no one left to message. No one left to blame. No one left to explain themselves to. Just silence. And the haunting realization that maybe they were the problem all along. And let's be honest, folks, it's not easy for you either. There's still that part of you that wonders if they even care, if they're even thinking about what they did. But believe me, they do. Because people don't value your presence until they feel the weight of your absence. And silence has weight. It presses on their chest at 2 a.m. It whispers in the gaps between their distractions. It lives in the spaces where your name used to show up, and now it doesn't. They'll start searching for signs, reading old messages, playing old voice notes. They'll look at your old photos and wonder how someone so giving, so patient, so loyal disappeared without saying a word. But what they don't realize is, you didn't disappear. You evolved. You stopped waiting for someone to understand you. You stopped breaking yourself to keep the peace. You let go of the idea that love meant suffering. And that shift, that transformation, that's the part that hurts the most. Because the version of you who would have taken them back, that version is gone. That version stayed up. Crying? This one sleeps in peace. That version over-explained. This one let silence speak. That version begged to be seen. This one knows their worth. So, let them replay the mistakes. Let them spiral in the silence. You're not there anymore, not emotionally, not spiritually, not energetically. You've moved on, not to prove a point, but to protect your peace. Say it with me now and write it in the comments. They replay. I rise. Let that be your truth. Let that be your energy. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that you're no longer auditioning for someone who forgot your worth. You're not a memory stuck on repeat. You're a masterpiece in motion. And stay close, because next we're going even deeper into the part that rattles their soul the most. The moment they realize you've changed in silence, and you're never coming back. Number 6, the ego hates what it can't control. Nothing bruises the ego more than silence it can't manipulate. Let's talk about something raw and real today, my friends. The ego, that loud, needy part of them that craves attention like a drug. That part that couldn't handle your love without needing to dominate it. And what you've done now, by going silent, you've taken their favorite toy and smashed it to pieces. They didn't love you. They loved the control. When you stopped reacting, when you stopped dancing to their emotional tune, you didn't just go silent. You shattered their illusion of power. The ego feeds off control. It survives on the ability to get a response, to pull a string and watch you move, to push a button and hear you defend yourself. But silence? Silence is a broken remote. No matter how many times they press it, nothing happens, and that drives them mad. Picture this. They're standing in front of a vending machine, pressing all the buttons, shaking it, yelling at it. But no snack drops. No reaction. No reward. That's you now. They used to get something out of you. Attention, validation, maybe just the thrill of watching you break and still come back.
But now?
Now you're quiet. Now you're calm. Now you've unplugged the machine. Let's break this lie real quick. They never feared losing you. They feared losing their grip on you. If they truly valued you, they would have protected your heart instead of testing it. They would have nurtured the bond instead of playing emotional chess. But they didn't want a partner. They wanted a puppet. And when the strings got cut, their ego collapsed. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life." And that's what silence gives you. Freedom. Freedom from explaining. Freedom from emotional blackmail. Freedom from being someone's emotional supply. The moment you stopped giving them that supply, they started starving. They don't know how to sit with that emptiness. So now they start reaching. Maybe not with words, but with passive stories, weird posts, sudden appearances. Trying to see if you'll crack, if you'll flinch, if you'll say something. But you don't. You stay solid. You stay silent. And that silence, it exposes everything. Without your response to shape their identity, they're left with just themselves. And they don't like what they see. It's wild, right? The same people who told you were too emotional, too intense, too much, now miss the very energy they used to mock. The game's over. You're not available for manipulation. You're not auditioning for validation. You're no longer emotionally on call. And let's not pretend this was easy. Silence isn't natural when your heart's been loud for someone. When you've spent so long trying to prove your love, trying to be understood. But there comes a point when you realize being misunderstood by someone who benefits from misunderstanding you, that's not love. That's a power play. You didn't come here to be controlled. You came here to grow. Every day you don't react is a wound to their ego. Every story you don't reply to. Every message you leave unread. Every smile you wear without them. That's the silence they can't stand because it says, "You don't control me anymore." And that's what breaks them. They wanted to keep you small, easy to read, easy to reach. But your silence made you unpredictable. And the ego? It hates the unpredictable. It can't plan around it. It can't manipulate it. It just has to watch and spiral. So say this with me, and write it in the comments right now. My silence broke their control. Let that be your anthem. Let that be your power. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that when you stop feeding the ego, you starve the games. You're not quiet because you're weak. You're quiet because you're finally free.